Hardcore. By Duane Penmanship. Chapter 1. Born in Black. Man, I didn't choose hardcore. Hardcore chose me before I even knew what a gang was. Both sides of my family been here since before I was born. Same blocks, same liquor store on the corner, same busted streetlights. My mama's brothers, my daddy's brothers, my cousins. Everybody wore black. Everybody threw the same signs. I grew up in the middle of it. And I ain't just talking about the neighborhood. I'm talking about the bloodline. Hardcore ran through our veins like it was hereditary. I remember sitting on the edge of my Uncle Ray's porch, legs too short to touch the ground, trying to keep quiet so I could ear hustle. That's what we called it. Listening without them knowing you were listening. They'd be leaning back in their chairs, smoking, sipping, talking about who got shot last night, who was locked up, who got out, or who had something coming to them. Every story was like a movie in my head. Man, they got T-boned right in front of the store, Uncle Ray said one night, shaking his head like it wasn't nothing. 2 in the chest, 1 in the neck, gone before he hit the ground. The other uncles laughed, not 'cause it was funny, but 'cause that's just how it was. Death was regular out here, like the bus schedule. And me, I couldn't wait to be part of it. Crazy, right? Most kids was trying to be astronauts or basketball players. I wanted to be like my uncles, feared, respected, untouchable. So I started early. I'd mimic the way they walked, the way they tilted their hats. I'd start fights in school just to prove I wasn't scared of nobody. Got kicked out more times than my mama could count. I ran with dudes 3, 4 years older than me. We'd steal bikes just 'cause we could. Didn't matter if we already had bikes. It was about the thrill. We thought we were grown men trapped in kids' bodies. But I found out later it was the other way around. We were kids pretending to be men, and the streets didn't care about our age. Chapter 2. The First Shot. It was hot that day. One of them sticky summer afternoons, where even the breeze feels like it's fresh out of blow dryer. I just left the liquor store with a bag of hot fries and a grape soda, riding slow on my bike down Ashland. That's when I saw them. Darnell and his boys from Get Busy, green hats, green rags hanging out their back pockets, walking 3 wide across the sidewalk like they owned the whole block. I knew them, and they knew me. Not on some handshake type of knowing. More like, I know where you from and I don't like it. Thing about me back then, I never left the house without my Saturday night special. Yeah, I was 12, 7th grade, still had baby teeth in my mouth, but I stayed ready. They spotted me before I could even think about turning off. Darnell grinned, but it wasn't friendly. Look who it is. Lil man, he said, stepping out in front of my bike. His homies flanked me quick. Where you headed? I didn't answer. Just sized him up, my hand sliding into my hoodie pocket. You hardcore, huh? One of them said, getting close enough I could smell his breath. Better watch yourself riding through here. I didn't plan to do it, not right then, but my heart was banging in my ears, and the streets had already taught me. Hesitation will get you folded. I pulled the pistol, smooth and fast like I'd practiced in the mirror. Before anybody could grab me, I fired. The shot cracked through the block, echo bouncing off the walls. Darnell's eyes went wide. His hands clutched his stomach, and he took a step back like he'd just tripped on something. His homies froze for a second. Then they bolted, gone before he could even hit the ground. Me, I froze too, just for a couple seconds, long enough to hear him gasp. Then I took off, pedaling like my life depended on it, chain rattling, tires humming against the pavement. By the time I hit my block, my shirt was stuck to me with sweat. I stashed the gun in an alley, heart still racing, and tried to act normal. But inside, I knew something had changed. A few days later, I found out just how much. Cops rolled up while I was sitting on the porch, lights flashing. They didn't even ask no questions, just told me to stand up and turn around. Later, in that cold interrogation room, I saw it, grainy black and white video from a liquor store camera. Me on my bike. Me pulling the trigger. That was it. The streets I'd been so eager to join had just cashed my first payment. Chapter 3. Juvenile Jungle. They gave me 5 years. 5 years don't sound like a lot until you're 12 and still can't even grow a full mustache. When the judge said it, I didn't really understand what it meant. My mama cried. My pops just shook his head like he already knew this was coming. Next thing I knew, I was on that bus with bars on the windows, shackled at the ankles, headed to youth authority. Man, youth authority was a different world. Forget what you've seen in movies. This was gangbanger central. Gangbangers from different cities, blacks, Hispanics, white boys with swastika tattoos, Asian sets. North, south, east, west. Everybody claimed to be the hardest from where they was from. The first week, I realized quick, you either fought or you got punked. No middle ground. My cellie was a cat named Bones from Compton. Skinny but crazy. First night, he told me straight up, "Lil man, they gon' test you here. If you fold, they gon' keep coming. Handle your business." So I handled it. First fade I took was with a dude from South LA. I didn't even know him, but he bumped me in the chow line on purpose. I swung first, and that was that. Got us both sent to the box for a week. Thing about youth authority, though. Fights weren't just random. They were politics. If somebody from your hood had a problem, you had a problem. If your car, meaning your racial or gang alliance, went to war, you went to war. I stayed busy. I ain't gonna lie, part of me loved it. Loved that my name started ringing in the dorms. Loved that people looked twice before stepping to me. I felt like the biggest goon in the building. Until the stabbing. It happened over something small. A card game gone bad. Dude from a rival said owed me 2 soups. Laughed in my face about it. Words turned into shoves. Shoves turned into fists. Next thing I knew, I had a shank in my hand, and he was on the ground clutching his side. They hit me with 2 more years for that. Just like that, my release date jumped. When I turned 18, they said I was too old for YA time to graduate to big boy prison. Happy birthday to me. Chapter 4, State Time. I'd been in cells before, but nothing prepared me for walking into state prison on my 18th birthday. The air was different, heavy. The noise never stopped. Chains clanking, boots on concrete, voices echoing off steel. It smelled like sweat, bleach, and metal. They processed me in fast. Stripped me. Deloused me. Gave me the state blues uniform that was 2 sizes too big, and handed me a mattress that looked like it had been here since the 80s. First stop was reception, where they figure out where to house you. In prison, you're labeled before you even say your name. Your race, your gang, your charges, that's your identity. Doesn't matter who you really are. I walked onto the yard with my property in a mesh bag, scanning faces. Some of the older homies from hardcore spotted me right away. They came over, gave me that handshake that's half hug. "Lil man, damn, you finally touched down, huh? Happy birthday, fool," one of them said. Felt good for about 5 minutes. Then I saw what the real was. Every corner of the yard had eyes. Every table had its own politics. You could get stabbed for sitting in the wrong spot. First week, I had 3 fights. One was with a dude from East Los, over a phone. One was with a dude from my own car, because he thought I disrespected him. And one was with a white boy over the TV in the day room. I stayed in the hole so much, I started thinking the SHU was my actual cell. Solitary will do something to your head. No windows, no sound except the occasional scream from another tier. You start talking to yourself without realizing it. After a couple years, the thrill was gone. I'd seen dudes get killed over $10 of dope. Seen lifers slice up fresh fish just to send a message. Seen guard look the other way like nothing happened. The same dudes who claimed to be high rollers on the streets were in here washing another man's boxers just to get a soup. The so-called baddest were folding under real pressure. Me, I still swung on anybody who tried me, but inside, I was getting tired. 7 years crawled by. I read books I never thought I'd pick up. Earned my GED. Wrote letters to people who never wrote back. Watched too many faces leave in body bags. When they finally called my name for release, I didn't smile. I just packed my stuff and walked out the gate with my property in a cardboard box. The free world was waiting, but so were the same streets I'd left behind. Chapter 5, Back to the World. Stepping out those gates felt like stepping into a dream you halfway remember. The air was warmer, smelled different, like exhaust fumes and corner store food. I had on fresh state-issued clothes, but they still felt like prison blues to me. One of my cousins was waiting in a beat-up Impala, black paint faded in spots. Soon as I got in, he grinned and said, "Welcome home, little man." I shook my head. "Nah, it's little Keith now." He laughed like I was telling a joke, but I wasn't. I'd been Lil Man since before I could tie my own shoes. The name was tied to every mugshot, every police report, every story about the old me. I wanted a new page, even if it was just a name. The ride home felt like watching a movie I'd seen before. Same houses, same liquor store, same alleyways. But there were new murals on the walls, new faces hanging on the block. Some things had changed. A lot hadn't. I didn't even get to the house before I ran into Cisco. I was at the cash register in the corner store, grabbing a bag of chips and an Arizona tea, when I heard somebody behind me say, "No way, Lil Man, that you?" I turned, and there he was, green hat, but no green rag. Cisco from Get Busy. We'd done time in the same yard, even had each other's backs in a few yard fights despite being from rival sets. We stared at each other for a second, then both grinned. He reached out, we shook hands, real shake, no tension. "Man, you still breathing," he said. "Guess so," I replied. We made small talk, nothing deep. Then he went his way, and I went mine. But walking out, I thought about how crazy it was. In there, we were soldiers on the same side. Out here, by the code, we were supposed to be enemies again. When I finally got home, the living room was packed. Cousins, uncles, homies, all happy to see me out. They joked about how I looked buff as hell from working out every day for 7 years. Someone handed me a plate. Someone else handed me a beer. It felt good. But it also felt dangerous. I knew too well how fast a living room full of love could turn into a street full of flashing lights. Sitting there, eating my plate, I kept telling myself, I'm not going back. Not for nobody. Chapter 6, New Connections. First stop after getting home was the probation office. I walked in thinking I could play it cool, but man, I almost tripped on the floor tiles. She was there behind the desk, smiling like she actually wanted to be at work. A few years older than me, professional, but there was something about her, confident, sharp, and kinda intimidating. "Keith Wallace?" she asked. I nodded, trying to keep my swagger under control. "That's me." "Little Keith now, right?" she said, scanning my paperwork. I shrugged. "Yeah. Call me Keith." She went over the rules, drug tests, curfews, check-ins, the usual stuff. I nodded, acting like I understood every word. Inside, I was thinking about how much I wanted to get out of the chaos I'd been in for so long. Once I was out of there, I hit the streets, not to run blocks, but to reconnect with a few positive homies. Todd, a truck driver, had started with 1 truck and now had 5. Kevin, a mechanic, had been obsessed with restoring old-school cars since we were kids. They both welcomed me in, seeing that I wasn't looking to cause trouble anymore. Todd handed me a stack of papers. "Here's info on the CDL school. You ready to work?" I took it. "Yeah, but in the meantime," Kevin laughed. "In the meantime, you can help me out in the shop. Cars don't fix themselves, and we got projects lined up." It felt good to work with my hands again, not fighting, not scheming, just building something. That night, walking home, I realized this was the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was starting to live. Chapter 7, Too Close for Comfort. Life was starting to feel steady. I had my mornings at Kevin's shop, afternoons studying for my CDL, and evenings just trying to keep my head straight. I thought I had a grip on things. Until that knock on the door. One of my uncle's girlfriends answered first. I was still in the living room, wiping my hands on a rag from working on Kevin's old Camaro. "May I help you?" she asked. It was her, my probation officer, standing there, clipboard in hand, like she had all the authority in the world, because she did. "Keith Wallace, Jr.?" she said, scanning the room. I stepped out, trying to act casual, but my chest was pounding. I hadn't expected a pop-up, not at all. The house was crowded, cousins, homies, people coming and going. I knew half of them had we tucked somewhere. Luckily, The alley in the back had all the smokers for the day, so she didn't check there. She drug tested me, gave me a few reminders about following the rules, and left. Just like that. I looked around the house after she left and knew one thing for certain. I couldn't stay here. Too many people, too much temptation, too much chaos. I needed my own four walls. Not 3, not 2, 4. That was it. From that moment, I made a plan. My own place, steady work, no distractions. No excuses. This time, I wasn't leaving my freedom to chance. Chapter 8. Building Momentum. Months went by, and I stayed on my grind. Kevin had me working on cars every day, learning how to fix engines, swap transmissions, and restore classics. I was saving cash, studying for my CDL, and feeling normal for the first time in my life. One day, Kevin pulled me aside. "I got a guy selling a Camaro. Clean, low miles. You want it?" I didn't even hesitate. I'd been saving for something like this. A ride that wasn't stolen or beat up, something I could call mine. The deal went through, cash in hand, keys in my pocket. That car wasn't just transportation, it was freedom. Every turn of that wheel reminded me I was in control now. And then there was her, my probation officer. She started dropping by the shop sometimes, asking questions about my progress, testing me on my knowledge, but also just talking. I played it cool, but inside I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: trust, connection. Before long, we started spending time outside the shop. Coffee after check-ins, small laughs, walks around the block. It felt different. Safe. Like maybe, just maybe, life could be something more than fights, locks, and gates. Even with everything going smooth, I stayed focused. Work, study, discipline. But for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future, one that didn't start with a cell or a gun. Chapter 9. Trouble in the Blood. Life was starting to feel like it was finally on my side, until it wasn't. She told me she was pregnant. My first thought, this is real, this is mine. But then the doubts crept in. Her ex-boyfriend, a cop, had been around recently. Old sparks, old anger. I couldn't be sure if the baby was mine or his. That uncertainty ate at me. Every time I saw him, my chest tightened. And that wasn't even the worst part. He started messing with me, pulling me over for no reason, threatening to report me to my probation officer, doing everything he could to make my life hell. The block heard about it. Hardcore wasn't about to let one of ours get pushed around. Not after all we'd been through. I try to keep a low profile, but word spreads fast. One of my cousins said, "They think they can play you, Keith." Nah, not on my watch. Soon, it wasn't just words. It was tension in the air. Every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me, waiting for something to pop off. And I knew that eventually, something would. Chapter 10. Shootout on the Line. I thought I'd learned how to handle streets, to handle stress, to handle myself. But nothing could prepare me for that evening. It started with a quick store run. The ex-cop, her ex, was following me, so I sent a quick text as I was getting out of my car after pulling into the liquor store parking lot. He walked up to me. His face was red, voice dripping with anger. "You ruined my life, Wallace. You're going down." I kept my composure and stayed calm. But he wasn't backing down, and neither was I. He reached for his gun, and in that second, I knew it could blow up fast. Word got out fast. Hardcore showed up, my cousins, even old homies, the ones who are still loyal. Guns out, tension high, everybody on edge. Then it happened. Shots rang out. Chaos. One of my boys went down, bleeding hard. The ex-cop ducked behind his car, firing back recklessly. Everyone was screaming, ducking, running, trying not to get hit. And then, out of nowhere, Cisco, from Get Busy, my old rival, locked up with me years ago, showed up in the middle of it all and fired a shot that hit the ex-cop. He didn't stick around. He disappeared into the thick of the night before anyone could even notice him. Nobody saw it coming. The dust settled. The cop was in critical condition. One of my boys was shot, and Cisco was gone. It was messy, chaotic, and dangerous. The ex-cop survived but got charged with shooting a civilian and public endangerment. After the chaos, I had a moment alone. I held my head, thinking about how far I'd come. 7 years locked up in prison, Youth authority, fights, gangs. All of it. And now, a baby on the way, my own CDL in hand, and a chance to really change. I got my CDL, bought a truck, and started a local route. Every delivery was a reminder. I was choosing a different path, one that didn't start or end with a body bag. Little Keith, not little man, finally felt like he was living for something more than survival. He was living for a future. And maybe, just maybe, he could finally break the cycle. The end. Hardcore. By Duane Penmanship.